This lecture is on personality and the self in consumer psychology. And we're actually going to start here with self-concept. Your self-concept is the beliefs and the attitudes that you hold about yourself. Now, beliefs are facts. Things like I am extroverted maybe, or I am skilled at math or not. I am not skilled at cooking, etc., etc., etc. Now, attitudes are evaluative judgments. Is not being skilled at cooking a positive thing or a negative thing? Different people are going to look at that differently, right? How do you evaluate each of your many self-beliefs? What is your overall evaluation of yourself? Do you have just one self-concept? Might you feel differently about yourself in different contexts? The self is multidimensional. And Patty Linville's theory of multiple selves not only acknowledges the different roles we play in life, but it also connects this with our mental health. Now, you see me as a psychology professor, but I am also a writer, a trial consultant, a sculptor, an aunt to 5 beautiful nieces and nephews, a dancer, and I have to say a pretty kick-butt charades player, etc., etc., etc. Okay? So this idea of multiple selves, by the way, differs from multiple personality disorder, or more technically DID, dissociative identity disorder, in that the different selves all share the same memories, and having these multiple roles is actually psychologically healthy. Patty Linville has shown that as long as we keep these multiple selves separate from each other, compartmentalized, so to speak, then the more the better for mental health, in that they can help buffer in times of stress. That is so important. Actually, let me repeat it first. So Patty Linville has shown that as long as we keep all of our multiple selves separate from each other, compartmentalized, so to speak, then the more the better for mental health, in that they can help buffer in times of stress. Let's look at an example of that. So compare my multiple self situation to the situation of only having one basic self-concept of professor. Now assume I lost my job. In which case would my life be the most devastated? Clearly, that would be the case on the right, right? Only have one self-concept, right? So Patty Linville has shown that non-overlapping multiple selves can help to buffer stress in this way. Non-overlapping being the key word here. So probably okay to make friends with 1 or 2 colleagues to the extent that you introduce one into your family life and or perhaps into your yoga life. But for the most part, it's better for your mental health to keep these lives separate. Our multiple selves, or different roles in life, also affect our preferences and choices. So it is easy to see how the more multidimensional market segmentation measures are, the more successful they will be at capturing more facets of an individual's self-concept. Now let's look at Rogers' theory of actual and ideal selves under self-esteem, starting with self-esteem. So your self-esteem is the overall, remember, evaluative component of your self-concept. So in other words, your general attitude about or judgment of yourself. To what extent do you like yourself? Think of yourself as good or bad. In short, people with high self-esteem tend to have the most stable self-concepts and be more confident in who they are compared to those with low self-esteem who tend to be more unsure of themselves. Now, it is possible that someone with high self-esteem can have an unstable self-concept, or one with low self-esteem, a stable one, as you will likely learn if you take personality or social psychology both classes of which I teach down the road. But these cases are less frequent. So in short, people with high self-esteem tend to have the most stable self-concepts, be more confident who they are, compared to those with low, who tend to be more unsure of themselves. Carl Rogers proposed that our self-concept is divided into two major parts, and that our self-esteem depends on how close or far apart these two components are. In other words, how congruent they are. Our actual self, he proposes, is who we think we are. Our ideal self is who we think we should be. Research has shown that the more congruent these are, the better mental health tends to be. So if the image on this slide represents two people, one on top, one on the bottom, the yellow representing the ideal self, the blue representing the actual self, which would you predict to be the most mentally healthy individual? And if you said the one on top, that is correct, because the actual and ideal selves are more congruent in this case. Furthermore, the ideal self can be broken down into the private ideal, how your private conscience tells you you should be, and the public ideal self, how you think others think you should be. Marketing activities tend to prey on consumers' public ideal selves. How? By creating and perpetuating unrealistic ideals. Think, for instance, of Barbie dolls and women's waist to hip ratio. The more unrealistic the ideals are, the more consumers can be led to believe that they need the products to achieve the ideal, since they can't on their own. While we are all vulnerable to these influences, those whose self-esteem is less developed, for instance, children and teenagers, and those of all ages who have low self-esteem, tend to be the most vulnerable.